All right, let's jump right in, shall we? Today, we're diving into all things London.
Sounds exciting.
It is, actually. And our inspiration is this delightful book letter called Love to Visit London. It's packed with, honestly, enough to make anyone want to hop on a plane right now.
I can imagine. London always has that effect, doesn't it? Drawing you back in.
Absolutely. And one of the first things that caught my eye was, this piece about the Sky Garden.
Ah, yes. The Sky Garden.
They make it sound incredible, describing it as, get this, the highest public garden in all of London, perched right on top of 20 Fenchurch Street.
Now that's quite a location, and designed by, none other than Raphael Vignoli Architects.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yes. Think landscape gardens, observation decks, even an open-air terrace, all with that incredible London skyline just stretching out around you.
I mean, that sounds amazing. But I do kind of wonder, does a space like that, I mean, it's so modern, does it feel out of place surrounded by, all those historic buildings?
That's a great question. I mean, Vignoli is known for pushing boundaries, right? So it would definitely be fascinating to see how he approached that, how he dealt with that kind of contrast.
Yeah, for sure.
But maybe we should shift gears a bit, explore another one of those London gems the newsletter highlights.
Okay, sure. What else have they got?
Well, how about Camden?
Oh, Camden. Yeah, I've heard some stories about those markets. They're not exactly your typical tourist traps, are they?
Absolutely not. Think eclectic food stalls, vintage shops overflowing with, well, character, you could say, and independent boutiques you simply wouldn't find anywhere else. The newsletter really plays up that sensory overload, the sights, sounds, smells, all hitting you at once.
Almost makes you wonder if it's more about like the overall experience rather than actually buying anything.
Yeah.
Although I have to admit, those vintage shops,
Who could resist a bit of treasure hunting?
not me, probably.
But Camden has more to offer than just the market. The newsletter mentions the canals, the historic canals, perfect for a peaceful stroll, a busy nightlife, and street art practically everywhere you look, covering the buildings.
Okay, now I'm picturing those canals. Are we talking like, narrow waterways tucked between buildings or something a bit grander, more open?
I haven't actually seen them myself, but I'm imagining something on the cozier side, a sort of quiet escape from the bustle of the market, maybe with little cafes and pubs along the banks.
That sounds lovely.
It does, doesn't it?
So charming. It's amazing how Camden can offer like these contrasting experiences, right? The energy of the market, the tranquility of the canals, and the historical depth of All Hallows by the Tower, all practically within walking distance, too.
It really does highlight those layers you find in London. Speaking of history, though, you know that little tidbit in the Around the Web section about the monument?
The monument. Remind me what that is again.
Well, it commemorates the Great Fire of 1666. And get this, it's located a mere 202 feet from where the fire actually started, in a bakery, no less.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Talk about a constant reminder, huh?
I mean, to think that a whole city reshaped by something starting in a bakery, it
Yeah.
really shows how these, seemingly insignificant events can have massive ripple effects.
Precisely. Makes you appreciate the resilience of the city, right? And while we're on the topic of resilience, the newsletter also mentions All Hallows by the Tower.
Okay.
This church has stood tall since the introduction of Christianity to Britain. Think Saxon times.
Wait, so it's older than the Tower of London itself?
It is. Can you imagine the stories those walls could tell? From Roman times right through to the Blitz, it's seen a lot of history. But let's jump ahead a few centuries, shall we? The newsletter also has this Yum section.
Oh. What's in the Yum section?
Well, it features none other than Gordon Ramsay.
Okay, now we're talking. What culinary delights does he have in store for us?
It teases, get this, 3 perfect lunchbox recipes, but sadly, no actual recipes, just a little tease.
Ah, that's a shame. Makes you wonder what a Michelin-starred chef would pack for, a London picnic.
Definitely piques the curiosity, that's for sure.
It does. Maybe we'll have to do a bit of sleuthing, see if we can track those recipes down.
Agreed. But before we get sidetracked by food, there's one more thing about that Sky Garden. Remember?
Oh, yes. What about it?
Well, the newsletter links to an article, and it's titled, Inside London Sky Garden, All You Need to Know Before Going.
Sounds like there's a lot more to uncover about this place than just those pretty views.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have to dive into that article in the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back. We're not done with London just yet. I have to say, I'm already feeling pretty inspired to go explore these places.
Oh, yeah, me too. Let's jump right back into that article, the one about the Sky Garden. Inside London Sky Garden, I think it was called.
Right. Inside London Sky Garden, all you need to know before going.
That's the one.
I'm curious, what kind of insider tips they have in there.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, knowing that it's, a public space, I'd imagine they've got a whole system for getting tickets and all that, especially with how popular it is.
You know what? That's a really good point. We should probably remind anyone listening to check that out. Don't want anyone to miss out just because they didn't book in advance or something.
Definitely not. Speaking of practicalities, though, maybe we can circle back to Camden for a moment.
Okay, sure.
You were mentioning, how the market is more about the experience, right?
Yeah.
But what about the street art? Do you think that's more just like a backdrop, or is it really a part of like that Camden energy?
That's a good question. I mean, the newsletter described it as, I think they said it was adorning the buildings,
Mm.
so it must be pretty noticeable, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I imagine it adds like another dimension to the whole sensory thing we were talking about.
I'm picturing this really vibrant mix of styles, reflecting, I don't know, like the diversity of the whole neighborhood. Maybe even some, political statements hidden in there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Now that you mention that, I bet there are probably, like guided tours, maybe even that focus on the street art specifically.
Oh, yeah, for sure. What a cool way to, really dive into the artistic side of things there.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. You could learn about, I don't know, the artists and the stories behind the work and how it all connects to Camden's history.
Exactly.
And then, afterwards you could unwind with a peaceful walk along those historic canals.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, though, are we talking about like those really narrow canals, kind
Yeah.
of squeezed between buildings, or are they more, I don't know, open and grand?
That's a good question. Like I said, I haven't actually been there myself, but I'm thinking in my mind they're more intimate,
Uh-huh.
kind of like a quiet escape from the market and all that, maybe with, little cafes and pubs sprinkled along the banks.
Oh, that sounds so charming. It does, doesn't it?
It's amazing how Camden can offer like all these different vibes, the energy of the market, then the peacefulness of the canals, and then that like historical layer with All Hallows by the Tower, all right there, within walking distance.
Yeah, it's true. It really highlights how layered London is. Speaking of history, that thing about the monument and the Great Fire, it really stuck with me.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of sobering, just a reminder of how quickly things can change,
Mm-hmm.
but also, kind of inspiring to see how London rebuilt and thrived after something so, well, devastating.
It's a testament to, I don't know, the resilience of the city and the people, I guess. They didn't just rebuild, they kind of reimagined London,
Mhm.
and made it even grander.
Oh, you know what? That reminds me. Do you remember those lunchbox recipes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
From Gordon Ramsay. How could I forget? It's like, a little culinary mystery.
Yeah, 3 perfect lunchbox recipes, but no actual recipes.
I know.
This makes you wonder. I mean, imagine, a picnic, a gourmet picnic in London, but all made by a Michelin-starred chef.
Talk about a sophisticated dining experience. It
Yeah.
really makes me wonder, do Londoners have like a whole thing for picnics? Have they elevated it to, I don't know, an art form?
Ooh, maybe.
Maybe we should investigate
That
that.
sounds fun.
But before we get too lost in daydreams of gourmet picnics and all that, there's one final topic I want to make sure we touch on.
I feel like we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From way up high at the Sky Garden
Yeah.
to those little hidden canals in Camden.
Mm.
I almost feel like we've experienced like, different versions of London.
I know, right?
I know.
And that's what I love about the city. It's not like one thing, it's this mix of history and modern stuff and all these different cultures all layered on top of each other.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so fascinating, right? It never gets old.
There's always something new,
Right.
some little surprise. Breathtaking views, historical bits you never knew about, or, art popping up when you least expect it.
That sense of discovery, that's what makes London so captivating.
It's like, I don't know, peeling back the layers of an onion, right? Every layer you get through, there's something new and interesting underneath.
Perfect analogy, and honestly, we've only just scratched the surface. I mean, London's got, countless neighborhoods, each with its own vibe, its own stories to tell.
It makes you want to just wander,
Yeah.
Get lost in those streets, stumble upon a hidden courtyard or a little cafe tucked away on some cobblestone alley.
Absolutely. London rewards that kind of curiosity. It encourages you to explore, to dig a little deeper.
It's the kind of city that stays with you,
Yeah.
long after you've left. It inspires you to keep learning, keep growing.
Yeah, it really does. So as we wrap up our deep dive into London,
Mm-hmm.
I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
If you could spend a day exploring London, where would you start? What hidden gem would you try to find?
It's a great question. And the beauty of London is that there really is something for everyone, right? History buff, foodie, art enthusiast, or just someone who wants to soak up the atmosphere. London's got something amazing waiting for you.
So go out there and explore. Discover your own London story.
And never know, you might even find a hidden gem that we haven't even mentioned.
Maybe.
Until then, happy travels.